I was on a multi-day trek in the Peruvian Andes. In our group was an American who seemed to think he was on a reality TV show. On the second day, he started complaining about the lack of amenities. Where are the charging stations? My GoPro is almost dead, and the Wi-Fi out here is non-existent. How am I supposed to upload my content? The local guide just smiled and pointed at the majestic mountains. The American then asked, "So when do the support vehicles get here with the hot lunch?" The guide explained that we carry our own food. The man was aghast. "You mean we have to eat this trail mix? This is a 5-star rated trek on TripAdvisor. In the States, 5 stars means full service, not this survivalist nonsense." An American tourist at a vineyard in the Bordeaux region of France was doing a wine tasting. The sommelier was explaining the concept of terroir, how the soil, climate, and environment affect the taste of the wine. The American waved his hand dismissively. Yeah, that's all just marketing talk. It's all about the brand. A good brand can make great wine anywhere. In California, our big wineries have it down to a science. This terroir stuff is just a fancy French excuse for inconsistency. I was working at a hotel in Costa Rica. A guest called the front desk in a rage because a gecko was on the wall of his room. "There's a lizard in my room. This is a health code violation. I demand a full refund and a new room in a lizard-free building." I tried to explain that geckos are harmless, very common in the tropics, and actually good because they eat insects. He replied, "I don't care. In America, if there's a pest in your room, the hotel gets shut down. I'm not sleeping in a jungle." While working at the front desk of a hotel in Kyoto, Japan, a guest from Texas called down in a panic. "Ma'am, there's a problem with my toilet. It has all these buttons on it, and it keeps making noises. I think it's broken." "It sprayed me." I tried to explain the features of a Japanese bidet toilet, including the heated seat and washing functions. He wasn't having it. "I don't want some robot washing my backside. This is unsanitary. Can you please send maintenance up to replace it with a normal American-style toilet? You know, one that just flushes." The way God intended ein tu, he then asked if we could charge him a lower rate for the inconvenience and emotional distress. I witnessed this at a cheese shop in a small village in Normandy, France. An American tourist was sampling some camembert. He made a face and said to the shopkeeper, "This tastes weird. It's gone bad." The elderly shopkeeper, who spoke a little English, explained it was a raw milk, unpasteurized cheese, a local delicacy. The tourist recoiled in horror. "Unpasteurized? That's illegal in the United States. It can kill you. You're selling poison." He then pulled out his phone and threatened to report the shop to the French FDA for endangering public health. He couldn't comprehend that different countries have different food safety standards and culinary traditions. An American exchange student at my university in Cairo, Egypt, was constantly complaining about the call to prayer from the local mosques. One day, in our student group, she announced she had a solution. "I've started a petition to have them turn the volume down. It's noise pollution, and it's very disruptive to my study schedule." In America, we have laws for this. An Egyptian student patiently tried to explain the cultural and religious significance. The American girl just shook her head. "I'm all for religious freedom, but it shouldn't infringe on my right to peace and quiet. They could just send a text message to everyone instead. It's way more efficient." During a tour of the ancient city of Ephesus in Turkey, a woman from California kept asking our guide questions that left him speechless. First, she asked if the famous Library of Celsus facade was a recreation from a movie set. Then, standing in the massive amphitheatre, she said, "This is impressive, but the acoustics are terrible. They should have hired a better sound engineer. The Hollywood Bowl sounds way better." The guide explained it was built by the Romans 2,000 years ago. She replied, "Well, for their first try it's not bad, but they clearly didn't plan for modern concert production." My cousin is a police officer in a small town in the Swiss Alps. He once pulled over an American for driving dangerously fast on a winding mountain road. The American got out of his car and was immediately belligerent. "You can't give me a ticket. I'm an American citizen." My cousin, confused, asked what that had to do with anything. The driver explained, "My tax dollars fund NATO, which basically protects your entire continent. So technically you work for me. Giving me a ticket is a conflict of interest." My cousin just wrote the ticket while the man threatened to call the US Embassy to have him fired. I was bartending in Iceland when an American tourist came up to the bar and asked, "What's the legal drinking age here?" I told him it was 20. He looked shocked. 20? But I'm 19. I can vote and join the army in America. I'm an adult. I apologized and said it was the law. He then leaned in and whispered, "Look, I'm a responsible guy. How about you just serve me and I'll sign a waiver? You know, a legal document saying I won't sue you if anything happens. We do it all the time in the States." He genuinely thought a handwritten note would override national law. An American family was visiting the Uffizi Gallery in Florence. I saw them standing in front of Botticelli's The Birth of Venus. The mother was trying to get her kids to appreciate it. "See, kids? This is a very famous painting." Her teenage son squinted at it and said, "Why is she naked? That's inappropriate. They should put a bikini on her or something." The father then chimed in, "He's right, honey. It's a bit much for a public museum. In America, this would at least be in a separate adults-only section. It's just not very family-friendly." They were critiquing a 15th century masterpiece based on modern American puritanical standards. I was on a safari in Tanzania. A woman in our Jeep from Florida was getting increasingly frustrated. Every time the guide pointed out an animal, she'd say something like, "Oh, we have bigger crocodiles back home," or "the deer in my backyard are more impressive than that gazelle." The final straw was when we saw a magnificent pride of lions resting under a tree. The guide was whispering about their behavior when she said in a loud voice, "This is it. They're just sleeping. It's so boring. At Disney's Animal Kingdom, the lions are always roaring and walking around. Can't you guys get them to do something?" A young American backpacker was at a train station in India, completely lost. A local man tried to help him, asking for his destination. The American showed him his ticket and said, "I need to get to this New Delhi place. Can you tell me which platform for the train to New Delhi?" The local man smiled and said, "Sir, you are in New Delhi. This is the main station." The backpacker stared at him, then at the bustling station, and said with utter disbelief, "No, this can't be it. I saw pictures online. It's supposed to be beautiful, with all the temples and palaces. This just looks like a dirty, crowded city." He thought the entire capital city was supposed to look like the Taj Mahal. I was working in a bookstore in Edinburgh when an American tourist asked me where our American history section was. I politely told him we didn't have one, but we had a large general history section. He looked offended. "What do you mean you don't have one?" American history is the most important history. The Revolution, the Civil War, that's what shaped the modern world. I pointed him towards the world history section, but he just muttered, "This is why you guys lost the empire. You don't focus on what's important." On a ferry between islands in Greece, an American was complaining loudly about the lack of air conditioning on the outdoor deck. "It's like 100 degrees out here. Why don't they cool this area?" His wife agreed. "I know." In Florida, all our outdoor restaurant patios have those misting fans. It's a simple technology. They were on the top deck of a boat, in the middle of the Aegean Sea, under the blazing sun, and expected it to be climate controlled. A friend of mine in South Korea had an American co-worker who was horrified by the office cleaning staff. In Korea, it's common for older women, or ajumas, to do this work. The American went to HR to complain that the company was exploiting the elderly and that it was a violation of American labor laws for senior citizens. The HR manager had to patiently explain that it's a respected job and that the women are proud to be working, not being exploited. The American suggested they should be forced to retire and collect Social Security instead. I was at a market in Marrakesh, Morocco, where haggling is part of the culture. An American woman was trying to buy a lantern. The vendor said 300 dirhams. She scoffed and said, "I'm not paying that. I'll give you $10. The vendor, confused, did the math and realized it was less than a third of his asking price. He tried to negotiate, but she stood firm. "Look, in America, the customer is always right. My final offer is $10. Take it or leave it." She seemed to think her nationality gave her superior bargaining power, and she ended up storming off when the vendor sold it to someone else. An American tourist in Vienna, Austria, was trying to order coffee. He asked the waiter for a regular coffee. The waiter, in a city famous for its complex coffee culture, asked, "An espresso? A melange? A kleiner browner?" The American got frustrated. "No, just a regular coffee, like from Starbucks, a grande pike place. How hard is that?" The waiter, completely baffled by the request, just brought him a black coffee, which the American then complained was too small and too strong. My Dutch friend was cycling in Amsterdam when an American tourist stepped right into the bike lane without looking. My friend swerved and yelled a warning. The tourist yelled back, "This is a sidewalk." "I have the right of way. You people need to learn the rules of the road." He was standing in a lane, clearly marked with giant bicycle symbols, unable to process a transportation system where bikes, not pedestrians, have priority in certain areas. At a Christmas market in Germany, I saw an American family looking at a stall selling traditional wooden ornaments. The father picked one up, examined it, and said to the vendor, "These are nice, but do you have any that are, you know, more modern? Maybe with some glitter or a Disney character? This is all a bit old-fashioned for our tree." The vendor, whose family had been carving these same designs for generations, just stared at him blankly. An American was visiting a remote village in Thailand and saw locals leaving small food offerings at a spirit house. He walked up to one, picked up a piece of fruit, and took a bite. A local guide rushed over and told him it was an offering for the spirits. The American laughed and said, "Spirits? Come on, it's just food. You guys shouldn't let good food go to waste like this. It's inefficient." He genuinely saw a centuries-old spiritual practice as a failure in resource management. I was in a university library in Dublin. It was a designated silent study area. An American student was on a full-volume FaceTime call with his family back home. A librarian went over and politely whispered that he needed to be quiet. He replied in a normal-speaking voice, "Why? It's the middle of the day. The library at my college in the US is always buzzing. It's a social place. You guys are way too uptight about this silence thing." He seemed to think all libraries should function as social hubs. A tourist in Rome got his rental car stuck in a narrow ancient alleyway. He called the rental company furious. "Your GPS is broken. It led me down this street that's not even a real street. It's a lawsuit waiting to happen." The agent on the phone tried to explain that many streets in the historic centre are thousands of years old and not designed for cars. The American yelled back, "Then they shouldn't be on the map. This whole city is a safety hazard. It's not ADA compliant." An American on a business trip to Sweden was confused by fika, the traditional coffee and cake break. He saw his colleagues stopping work for 30 minutes to socialise. He later told his boss, "With all due respect, this fika tradition is killing your team's productivity. In the US, we have quick coffee breaks at our desks. It's much more efficient. You're losing valuable man-hours to pastries." He was trying to optimise a core part of Swedish work culture. I was at a public hospital in Canada with a friend who had a minor injury. An American tourist was in the waiting room, loudly complaining to his wife, "I can't believe this. We've been waiting for 45 minutes." This is what you get with socialized medicine. In the States, I'd pay my copay and be seen by a doctor immediately. This free healthcare thing is a scam. He was completely oblivious to the fact that ER wait times in the US can be hours long, even with insurance. A tourist at the Anne Frank house in Amsterdam was looking at the small, cramped, secret annex. I overheard her say to her husband, "It's sad, but I don't get why they didn't just leave. They could have just gotten on a plane and flown to America. We would have taken them in." She had a fundamental lack of understanding about the realities of World War II, borders, and the global political situation at the time, viewing it through a simplistic lens of why didn't they just come to the land of the free? An American was in a pub in rural England and saw a game of darts being played. He watched for a few minutes and then approached one of the players. "You guys are pretty good, but your technique is all wrong. You should be using a 3-finger grip and snapping your wrist more. That's how the pros do it on ESPN." The player, who had been playing in that same pub for 40 years, just looked at him, took a sip of his pint, and took his next turn without saying a word. I was on a train in Japan, which was almost perfectly silent. An American group came on board, talking and laughing at full volume. A conductor politely came over and made a shushing gesture. One of the Americans said, "What's his problem?" "We're just having a conversation. Is it illegal to talk on trains here?" They genuinely couldn't grasp the concept of a shared public space, where silence is the expected norm, viewing it as a restriction on their personal freedom to be loud. A student in my international relations class in France, who was from the US, argued that the rest of the world should adopt the American Constitution. "It's the most perfect document ever written for governance," he claimed. "If every country just copied it, we'd have world peace. All these other systems, like parliamentary systems and monarchies, are just flawed beta versions of what we perfected." The professor was so flabbergasted she didn't know where to begin.